Hey guys, welcome back to Tower of God, a new world. Now, in this one, I'm going to go through my personal tier list for re-rolling. Now, I'll explain it all to you. I will also do a re-roll guide within the next 12 hours. So if you're watching this later than that, I'll leave it in the pinned comment and the description. And also, before we go any further, this game has been in soft launch for 5 days. So a lot of this could change. It's a very small amount of time to test a game, and no one has reached the end game, so we don't know how characters are going to scale and stuff like this. So we've only got to go on knowledge of how these type of games work normally and what we have in the game currently and what is working. So it's a massive disclaimer. Like, no one, like myself, you won't find anyone who is a 100% expert on this game and can be 100% confident in everything they say, because the game's been out for 5 days. But I wanted to give you guys the best information I could, so hopefully this stays true and this video ages well, but just keep that in mind. Endgame in idle games is often different to early games, so we'll have to see how everything ages. Anyway, I just wanted to put that massive disclaimer in there. As always, new game, it's that fresh. Also, feel free to just read characters yourself and get a gauge on what you think might be good, and just back yourself because it is so early. But essentially, what we have in this game is we have Rs, SRs, SSRs, and SSR pluses. Now, these 6 units up the top of this list are the only SSR plus units we have in the game, and we are about a day away from the global launch at the time of recording this, so they put new banners out and they sneak them in. Then this could change, and I will update this. But essentially, that's what we have at the top. And then down the bottom, I'll talk briefly about those SSRs. And they're just some that you can slap into your wish list while you're doing your rerolls and not feel bad about any you get. And then I will do another video, probably on the day of global launch or something like that, going through wish list, because it is very complicated on what teams you want to build and stuff like that. So this is just like a general one down the bottom of stuff you can put on your wish list and not feel too bad about it. They're all decent options. So let's first go through the SSR pluses. So if you're re-rolling, realistically, you're re-rolling to get one of these guys. That's what the go is. They got very low drop chances, so if you can start with one of these guys, especially one of the top 2, they are super overpowered. Now, I'm going to quickly summarize them. I've got them up on screen as well, so we can take a look. But the first one's going to be Evan. Basically, what he has is his ultimate can basically make his allies immortal, so they can't drop below 10%. It lasts for 6 seconds, and then once it ends, all the damage they would have taken, 50% of that gets healed to them. So when you're at a high deficit, it's a complete top off if they've been taking a ton of damage through that, which is absolutely amazing in my opinion. The other great thing about this is the SSR plus characters, because they're so rare, getting the dupes of them is going to be incredibly hard. But this doesn't really require dupes to be good. It's not like damage dealing where you want dupes so you can increase your multipliers and stats. This is just immortality and then healed off based off the damage taken. So it just scales infinitely. It's absolutely fantastic. This ability has an energy regen, which is really nice. Also has a little knockback for enemies. This one, he removes debuffs from allies. It's got a heal. It's got energy regen for him. Then with his exclusive equipment, it also gives extra healing, extra energy regen, and immunity, so it's quite nuts. And this one conceals an ally so they can't get attacked at the start of battle, then they come out of it and it gives them extra energy. But then when he gets, I think it's when he gets blow, upon being revived, yeah, so it'll conceal himself as well and also give energy and heal. Like, it's just, he's got a crazy kid, essentially. This guy, I played a yellow account where I mained him, and he's just absolute savage. Just like, he ults and you're like, GG's pretty much, unless you just have very weak damage and then you're not going to get through it. But this guy, good energy recovery, off the charts ult, and honestly, besides her, he's pretty much the only healer in the game. So really, really good. Next one is going to be Karaka, if I can find him here. The game's just lagging out a little bit, but Karaka, this guy is an absolute savage. He's basically got a second life, so if he dies, he comes back to life. He's got a taunt, so he'll make everyone taunt. So the ideal way that you use him, he's the one that I've mained on this account, is that you get him to use the taunt before he dies, so that he essentially taunts everyone, then they can kill him. He comes back, he fears them, and then he's going to use his ult. Now, what his ult does, it puts a sphere in front of him that taunts all enemies, and then at the end of the charging period, it's going to like do a straight line worth of damage, and it's going to deal damage based on the damage that it took while it was taunting. So one, it takes damage away from everyone because it's going into the orb, and then he can basically cheese stages because he can just one-shot entire enemy teams from the damage that it's taken. Now, it is capped at 1000% of his attack rating as flat, so this will probably get lesser effect into the later game, but in the later game, he'll just be used as an effective tank. This other ability he does, he like spits some orbs around the field, and if enemies run into them, they take damage and they get taunted or provoked, if what they call it, as well. So another really cool effect, and you can use other units to sort of churn enemies around to make them proc these. But this guy just absolutely nuts. He's that cheesy type of unit that you can just beat stages you have no reason beating because he just basically cheeses the stage. Moving on from that, we're going to go into Evankel. Evankel. I don't know how to say names properly, but she is an absolute savage. The only reason I put her down here is because she's not a yellow or a purple unit. Basically, yellow and purple, if you build your teams right, the way it works, which I explained in my beginner's guide, but you can make it so that you're never a weak element, because weak element means you deal 50% less damage and you take 100% more damage. So it kind of sucks. But she is an absolute monster. She has like a, when she drops low, she gets healed up and increases her attack. She can swirl enemies around and group them up. And then she can also use her ultimate, but her ultimate's like a channeled ability where she deals massive amounts of damage channeled, but while she's channeling it, she's invincible. So she can avoid damage. She can deal massive amounts of damage. She's got self-healing. She's an absolute monster. But like I said, because she is a red unit, if you're fighting against blue units, she does have that one downside of, you know, being pretty much crippled by that weakness. Not completely useless, but, you know, that is a weakness that you can't avoid. Then we have over here, if we can go to her. So Mashini, I don't really know how to pronounce his name properly, I do apologize, but the younger version of her. This one is an assassin, but she's got this passive which is absolutely ridiculous, where she can just basically stay invincible for a long period of time, and she can really stall out enemy teams by lunging at them and then just distracting them and keeping the rest of your team alive. I really like her play style. I used her in an early account that I was testing through, and I have seen other good things from people pushing really hard with her. So I really think she's a fantastic unit. You do require some more synergies to make it work. Obviously, you need to have a rest of the team that can work really well. But yeah, her at that distracting type thing, and she does have like a pretty decent multiplier on these abilities. For instance, this one does 240% of her attack 5 times. So that's over what's that, 1,200% multiplier, if my math is correct. So 1,200% multiplier on that one. Pretty decent multipliers. Once again, she will fall off without dupes later on because of that, but she won't lose that invincibility, which she can use as a distraction unit. So I think she's fantastic for that. Moving on to these two, the older version of her, which is this one over here. Let me get to her. So the older version of her is the Ranger Mage, essentially version of her, the range DPS. Now, I think she's going to be a monster in boss fights, but I've got her on my account. I just cannot make her work in campaign. She just doesn't bring enough to the table to help your team in campaign, because often if just the damage isn't enough, but she's got more of that stacking build up damage that I think is going to be monstrous for bosses, but just in the early game for rerolling, I prefer focusing on campaign progression. And then the final one we do have over here is going to be, dude, the game is lagging like crazy, is going to be Zahad. Now, this guy, he's the only one I haven't personally tested. So I'm basing this on other people and what I've spoken and seen in Discord. Keeping in mind, we're only 5 days into the soft launch, so this could definitely change. But basically, this guy, he changes forms. He's a bit clunky is the idea that I've seen, and not the craziest damage. So I'm going to put him down there. Keep in mind, I could be completely wrong on this take because he's the one I have not tested myself. So I'm relying on other people there, but I just put him down there. Like I said, these top 4 I'm really happy with. These two 100% best setup to start your account progression. Evankel, pretty good. Just has that one weakness. Her, once again, a really sick unit. But yeah, that's my personal thoughts. Me personally, I'm going to probably reroll for Karaka. I just like him more than Evan because Evan's just a bit boring looking, to be honest. That's pretty much all there is to it. But yeah, Evan is an absolute nuts unit. I feel like later on in the game, if you don't have Evan, you're going to be really struggling compared to people who do. So moving on from that, we obviously have the wish list in the game. So if we jump over into the summons, if the game would stop lagging so damn hard. Okay, there we go. We've loaded up. So ignore my wish list in my game. I'm just trying to experiment with units before I reroll it global. But essentially what I'm looking at here is these suggestions. I'm going to do a whole video because this is like what I'm putting in here is not long enough for me to explain what's going on here. But basically this first position gives you the highest rate up, and then the other four are a lower rate up but still a rate up. And these are three units that I would say are suitable units to put into the highest rate up, and these are units that you can put into the standard rate up depending on what you want, and all of them are decent. You're not going to have any issues. Now, hats is one that you'll see a lot of people rave about. Massive shout out to Shiro on Discord. He showed me he's got a maxed out hats, and I don't know, he was saying that Yuri's sometimes doing more damage than that. So I don't know. I'm just putting him in there because I know a lot of people will recommend him, but it's too early in the game to know how characters will scale into endgame. I don't think his heal is going to be functional enough into the very, very endgame, but we'll have to wait and see. So like I said, it's sort of a balls up. No one really knows what the best options are. So you know, you can go with him. Endorsi is one that doesn't deal as much damage, but she sort of serves the role that she does in that she can go into the enemy's back row. She's got a cheat death. She can distract them. She can control them a bit. Got some stuns. So getting her as your first duped up unit means that she's going to survive longer and deal more damage while she's doing that lunging roll. And then we have Yuri, who's one we get a bunch of dupes of free to play anyway, but she's a tank, but she's an absolute monster damage dealer as well. So she's just a fantastic carry type unit. So those are the three I would recommend. If you want to pick one, put one in your high rate up. And then these are all units that are valuable. Basically, these are the light units or the yellow units, because yellow core and purple core are going to be the two main core teams that I recommend for new accounts. And then we also have her, she's a green unit, but she's like the only other healer in the game. So if you chuck any of them in that wish list, you're pretty much not going to have a destroyed account. They're all safe bets to put in your wish list at the moment from what we can tell. So that is the quick way. I'll do a much more in-depth team guide, beginner team guide and stuff like that in the next couple days. But yeah, hopefully that gets you guys across what I'm doing. Like I said, once again, it is very early days. So don't be surprised if some of this changes, but it's the best I could come up with on such short notice. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.